Hey everybody, this is Jeremy with Video Gaming Hardcore. I want to do something a little different today. You know, we've done a lot of Let's Play videos, done a lot of fun little things here and there. Today what I wanted to do is more of a tips and tricks video, obviously specifically for Diablo 3, obviously for the Barbarian. What I'm doing, something that I've had a lot of fun with, something I've really enjoyed, is a Whirlwind build with the Barbarian. Now, there is a lot of debate online that I've seen, you know, some people saying this is the single best build in the game, other people saying that it flat out doesn't work. So, I just wanted to go over a few things here, show you guys I have a little bit of a modified build, a little bit different than what you might see otherwise, but for those of you who have been having trouble using the Whirlwind Barb, but want to see what it's all about, want to see maybe a different way that it can work, just want to give you an idea of what we can be looking at. In this video, I'm going to go over the skills, what goes into making the build work, give you guys a little bit of a gameplay demonstration, and then after that I'll probably do it as a separate video. I'll give you a little bit of an idea of what you want to be looking for as far as gear, especially considering that not all of us have, you know, 500 million gold to throw around. So first, as I said, I want to take a look at the skills. You may or may not already have an idea how the build works. I'm going to assume you don't, but just giving you a quick overview. What the build does, obviously our main skill is Whirlwind. That's why it's called the Whirlwind Barb. The rune you're going to want to use always is Hurricane, which allows you to move at your movement speed while using Whirlwind. This is important because, honestly, the skill that makes this work and your main damage dealer is going to be Sprint. Because, obviously, increased movement speed is nice, but the important part is the rune, which is Run Like the Wind. Again, you know, tornadoes come behind you, they last for 3 seconds, deal 60% weapon damage. Now you might be saying, well, 60%, that's not a lot. Trust me, it's a lot. The tornadoes hit multiple times each, you can spawn a lot of them, you're using Sprint all the time. That is where your main damage is coming from. Not from Whirlwind, but from Sprint. That's your main damage dealer. So you're going to Whirlwind to get you around the field battle, you know, move around quickly, deal damage as you're going, and then get your tornadoes behind you. This is going to work for a couple reasons, which is A, you can generate Fury immediately by using Warcry. This is, I think, on any build, any Barbarian, the one skill you must have no matter what. It increases your armor. Obviously, if you're in a party, it helps your allies out as well. And the important part is the rune, which is unlocked at level 60, Impunity. All of your resistances are increased by 50%. To give you an idea, my resistances are not super high, as you can see, to start off with. But if I Warcry, look how much higher they get. And that's still, I mean, probably could be a little bit higher, but I mean, you just see the amazing difference there. When you Warcry as well, that gives you 30 Fury, which allows you to immediately activate Battle Rage. Battle Rage is really, really good. That's going to give you 15% extra damage, which just by itself is already great. 3% extra crit hit chance, which is awesome. Lasts for 30 seconds, which is great. Most important part, though, is the rune, which is, while you have Battle Rage active, crit hits have a chance to generate 15 additional Fury. The reason this works is because you're going around the battlefield, you're hitting things with your Sprint Tornadoes, you're hitting things with Whirlwind, and yes, everything you hit with that could crit can trigger Battle Rage. So when your Tornadoes get a crit, they can trigger Battle Rage. So it gives you a nice way of keeping your Fury up. Now, speaking of Fury, that's really been the biggest thing people have had a problem with this build. When they say it doesn't work, they say, well, you know, it doesn't work because the typical double tornado build uses Whirlwind as the main attack. That is normally on their left click. So people say, well, what happens when you're out of Fury? I mean, there's a couple ways to go about that, but you know what? It is a build. It's a little bit tougher to play. It's very good if you know what you're doing with it, but it is a little tougher for someone to pick up. What I've started doing, what I really like, is keeping Whirlwind as my secondary. My primary is Bash. There's a couple reasons for that, which is A, it's very easy to generate Fury with. As you see, I'm using the Instigation rune, which makes it generate 12 Fury per attack instead of 8. So it's very easy to gain back a lot of Fury really quickly if you need to, because, I mean, that's the thing. This build can sometimes run out of Fury. So it makes it a lot easier to keep your Fury up in those instances where Battle Rage just didn't trigger, because it is a chance to generate 15 Fury. So sometimes it doesn't trigger, and sometimes you're suddenly left without Fury. So Bash can help make up for that. 165% weapon damage is nothing to sneeze at. 20% chance to knockback is, you know, just a nice little bonus, but it helps. So this really helps solve a lot of your issues as far as Fury generation, because what this build is, it's all about Fury management. That's the entire build, is managing your Fury properly to make sure everything works together. So again, you'll start out with Warcry. That'll generate you 30 Fury, gives you more than enough to activate Battle Rage right away. What I like to do after that is just hit something once with Bash, gives me enough Fury, I'll get Sprint going, gives me my Tornadoes, and start Whirlwinding, and it's pretty easy from there. Now, the other part of my build that is a little different, a lot of builds use this right here, Wrath of the Berserker. Wrath of the Berserker is great. It does cost a lot of Fury, half your maximum at 50, and has a long cooldown at 120 seconds. But it gives you a bunch of stuff. Crit hit chance, attack speed, dodge chance, movement speed. I don't need to tell you all this, you can read it, but those are all great things to have. The great part about it is the rune, Thrive on Chaos, which you can see what it does. If you gain, Fury while it's active, adds 1 second to the duration of the effect. One thing to keep in mind is that you do need to gain Fury. If you just stay at maximum, that does not count for Wrath, for the Thrive on Chaos rune. So one thing to keep in mind. So you can keep it up a long time. As long as there are enemies around, if you're playing right, you can keep it up pretty much indefinitely, which is fantastic. Makes runs a lot easier, makes them go a lot smoother, makes it so you can keep it up on champion packs, elite packs, on bosses, really anything. As long as there's enemies around, you can keep it up. And I've been using that for a long time. I really liked it on my build, but you know what? I'll be honest with you, my gear is pretty good, and but not totally, godlike. It is not the ultimate gear that I could have. I'll go over that more in the next video, but the point is that even with this, there were some elite packs where I felt I was dying when I probably shouldn't be. So I actually stopped using Wrath of the Berserker. One thing that I found after the 1.04 patch, which has been just quite literally a lifesaver that I have started using, is Rend. Why? Well, firstly, look at the damage it's doing. It used to do a lot less. It is now 700% weapon damage over 5 seconds. That is a lot of damage. But what really makes this shine is the Bloodlust rune. This was there before. The rune hasn't changed. You gain 9% of the damage done by Rend. But now when you consider that you're hitting for 700% weapon damage, you're getting 9% of that back, I can go from a quarter of my life, hit a couple enemies with Rend, and I am back to full almost immediately. So it does a lot of damage. It heals for quite a lot with the Bloodlust rune, and the great part is that sometimes if you need to kite a bit and you need to get away from an enemy, if you hit them with Rend, you're still dealing damage as you're running away. So, I mean, that's great. Obviously, that's not going to count, for Battle Rage or anything like that, but it is going to deal damage to the enemies. So that is the beauty of it. So, now you get an idea how the build works. You build up some Fury with Bash and Warcry. You go into your Battle Rage, and you're going to start generating Tornadoes with Sprint and hitting with Rend as you go. And obviously Whirlwinding throughout. So, I'll give you guys an idea of how this is going to work. I'll be honest, I haven't set this up. I don't know what kind of enemies I'm going to encounter here, so we'll see what happens. I feel this is a good place to demonstrate it, just simply because there's a lot of tight spaces, and as anybody who's played Inferno knows, when you're fighting elite packs in tight spaces, sometimes it can get a little dicey. So we're going to see what happens. So I'm going to go to my Warcry, going to go to Battle Rage, so I'm going to, bash an enemy a couple times, turn on my Sprint, and look what happens as I Whirlwind through them. Just going to keep Sprint up, and look, I said I'm not even doing anything right now, and look at the damage ticks on them. So that is essentially why you're going to do your build. Now I said I'm low on health, I Rend, look at my health going back up. So now I'll be honest, I'm focused a little more on talking to you guys than I am on staying alive right now. So if I die, just take it for what it is. But the fact is that even when I'm doing that, you look at what Rend is doing for me, even before I picked up a health globe. Look at the damage that I got back. The other thing you want to keep an eye on is that Battle Rage wore out. And if you let Battle Rage wear out and you're not careful about it, that can get you killed because suddenly you expect to have Fury and you don't. So that is one thing you want to keep an eye on. But you look at those tornadoes, look at how much damage they're doing. So that's really the point, is that your damage is, as I said, not really coming from Whirlwind. I mean, it's nice, it can do damage, but that's really not your focus. So you get the idea here. I'm not going to bore you guys by fighting this guy, on stream, because he's just running away a lot. I don't know, maybe I can get him quickly here. And that's the other reason why I like to have Bash, so maybe it's actually good that you're seeing that, is that sometimes you're going to have the enemies that run away, and you can't be hitting them 100% of the time because they do that. So having Bash, if my Fury runs out, then I have Bash there to kind of compensate for that. Because every once in a while you're going to run into those enemies. So, I mean, that's something you want to keep an eye on as well. So, that pretty much illustrates my point. I'm glad I got an elite pack quickly so I didn't have to bore you guys by running through, you know, little junk mobs. But that is essentially how the build works. You're going to get a lot of ticks and a lot of damage. There are some other things that go into this build that are gear related. I'm going to go over that in the next video, which will really be just part 2 of that'll really tie everything together. So I hope you guys watched that. Hope this gave you a good idea of the basics of the build. And as I said, we're going to tie it all together in part 2. So see you there.